Okay. Hello. You guys ready? So, what we're going to do today is welcome. Hi. In case you have not realized, you're darn close to finish this class. Huh? In case you haven't realized, the last few days, if you use some GIS, it should have felt like I got this. Well, let me explain. As in, I got this, it feels more easy than before. It's like, if you compare it to Excel, well, it's not like that you're now the super financial master modeler in Excel, but you're not scared anymore to open this up and put some equations into a sheet, okay? As I keep comparing it to Excel, you also know, based on your years of experience with Excel and friends that might be even better and better, that there are some bunch of functions you have not seen in Excel or barely ever used or thought about. To be honest, like, who has ever dealt with complex text functions in Excel? Because you never really had to deal with it, really, okay? So, but because you know it's Excel and there are text functions, you might have taken a look at how to combine or cut text or replace. So what we're going to do today for the GIS world, I want to show you a few more little things that open up Pandora's box 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, in a positive way, you're going down the rabbit hole. Can't remember was it the blue pill or the red pill, but it's something like that. What I want to show you is a bunch of things. I want to push this more into data management. Because whatever you do, if you are unable to put things into the right place, you will have issues. I don't want to say you will fail, but you will have issues. Like, man, where did I download this file? Where did I extract it to? Running a tool, where did it save? Where is my new created layer? We have been very, very straightforward so far and said we're going to put everything into the same bucket. But even finding that bucket was a problem here and there. So what I'm going to do today is I show you how to connect to GIS servers. Why? Because you all have been looking for data. And where would you go if you look for data? Well, one thing is you open up a web page, let's say gis.broward.org, and we download the data. We have done that last week. We're going to do that again today if we need to download, but I need to show you the tricks on the next steps of smart management in data. Again, geodatabases, how to import files. If you don't use it for your project at this moment because you are doing everything online in the cloud, that's fine. But I need you to expose to the idea. I can find data somewhere, I can download it, and I can wrap it up the way I want on my machine. As in, I am not okay with a CSV file, a table. I'm not okay with a regular shape file. I want to deal with tables and with so-called feature classes in my data management environment. We call it geodatabase. And Pro is doing that for you. A little bit complicated, but it's doing it for you. Complicated part is to know where it's locating it, which is fine because we threw everything into a bucket. So if the project is in the bucket, the data for the project should be in the bucket. If we import, that's the function we're dealing today with. Import data, and then after we're done with this, takes a moment, bunch of right mouse clicks, that's it. After that, we're going to do the process called table join. That was part of the textbook, I think chapter 6. A little bit complicated with the examples in the chapter, but it's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to take all of Broward County parcels and the assessor's data to it, because they have what? They have parcel ID numbers in both data sets. One gives us the boundaries of the parcel. That means we can draw one parcel or all of them on the map. And the other one is that NAL file, which has all the residential land uses and multifamily. It's part of the appraiser's data set for residential, so I'm not sure how they report multifamily in that case. But you get like land value, tax delinquents, and all that. We're only dealing with land value, just for getting that one data in. Doing that, using the parcel ID number as the join or joint variable. Why? If I have a parcel here and I have a parcel here, and they both have the same number, and they're identical, I can match them. Yeah? We're going to talk about all the problems that might occur. What if I have 10 times the same parcel number? We have that. Yeah? 10 or 5 times the same parcel number in the data, and only one parcel. There are rules how that gets combined. That's the complicated part. But in theory, it's again a friendly right click, find the tool that's called join and match that. The challenge today is we're doing this on a really big data set. There's a high chance that the computer's saying, hey, I come back after a cup of coffee. But you need to see at least once how much time is consumed by that to make your work a little bit more smarter. If I want to deal with Davie, do I need all Broward County? Probably not. So I could do the same operation just with the files from Davie and then join to my big table and then take the leftovers that are associated with Davie. Yes, please.
Is there a spot that when the computer is working and, that where it's like on the Apple, they've got that little spinny symbol?
Yeah, we got a lot of spinning symbols today too.
But there's a spot, because I would not know if the machine, so far I haven't found like one of those little spots where it says, hey, I'm working.
That means I haven't stressed you out yet enough with the on the ground stuff. We'll get there. All right, so we're doing data management, table join, playing with this. I expect a few computers to explode. Yeah, can happen. One mouse click here in the wrong direction, it will take 20 minutes. Fine. Yeah, but that's okay. That's this large data, 775,000 parcels. Was that the number? I think so. It's huge. It will take some time. Yeah? So, but that's not the fun we're dealing with today. The fun is actually the stuff we do in the beginning. Connect to a data server. Why? Because, hey, where do I get the data? This is coming back from my starting statement. You look around, you know who you can call. That's in the TS world always great. Have those guys, not necessarily on speed dial, but know to whom you should address issues. And then check the web pages of the municipality or the county you're interested in. And you will see certain differences. Some towns, cities, or counties are straightforward with the data, shooting out everything they publish officially for the public because they're public entities. And you basically say, well, that data set is like 2 or 3 months old. It can be that I had an environment where the university library had a data agreement with the county's appraisers, and 3 months after the appraisal was done, a zip file with the last quarter data was available for free. You just had to be a member of the library. So Broward County is a really cool place if you download your zip files. I don't know who's clicking right now, but we're not doing anything on the screen. I might be halfway deaf on the right one, but I can hear on the left on the mouse clicks. We did download on Broward County. We're doing this today again. But have you tried to find data for, let's say, Fort Lauderdale, City of Davie, Miami-Dade County? And you will see that differences. Miami-Dade County is actually really cool because if you just Google Miami-Dade County GIS, And a few mouse clicks later, you're at a so-called download portal, and you can find pretty much everything they have available most recently. If you're nice and you call them up, they give you even historic data if possible. Yeah? Back in the days, and it's still the same time, if you want to do some serious damage with GIS data, what you're going to do is you're going to take an external hard disk and swing by, drop it off, cup of coffee, or come back a few days later, depending on how busy they are. I want to show you two so-called ArcGIS servers that could be beneficial for your work. Mostly for research, mostly for visualization purposes. Because the way some of those data servers are structured, they display only. Yeah? So future land use for Lauderdale, no problem. For visualization, no problem. If I want to download it and do some damage with it, aka geoprocessing, I need to request that file. There's a difference. Miami-Dade gives you the idea to download this straight away. Fort Lauderdale as a city, not so much. But that's okay. Sometimes it's just good enough to display data. That's what we're also going to do with the density exercise. I want to use the data points we had already up with the geocode some parcels. Remember the parcel GDP we did last week? And I want to show you how to do a very quick and dirty and highly sophisticated display of high and low values, let's say land values in your data set. That's what I call the quick and dirty way. The quick and dirty way with Pro is even better than in the years before, because what we're going to do is we're doing a density map in online and then pull it in Pro. Because the same data set in Pro is extremely painful to calculate. Because you don't get that visual nuances and the beauty like the 5 mouse clicks online. So that's a big advantage now that they're connected as a hybrid. That said, that should take us about an hour-ish, depending on the fun we're doing in between with the data server. I want to dedicate the rest of this class as a workshop, like I said in the email. I want to talk to everyone in the classroom today, like, hey, how you doing? How's your project doing? And I want you to show me where you struggle and where you are successful. Mostly the successful part. It is okay to be not perfect. You need to understand this. This is not an assignment where you say, I climbed the mountain and I reached the top. Here's a picture on top of the summit. You do not have to have the perfect picture. Reaching summit and close to summit is good enough. If you want to climb Mount Everest, but you show me 3 different routes you climbed, abandoned, turned around, and are able to justify why you make that decision, it's also good enough. Your GIS assignment, the majority of it is what? GIS work, presentation, and your report. Because that's the 3 skills you need to have. You need to have the processing and workflow skills for your project. If your boss comes in and says, hey, you're the GIS guy or gal, how do you do that? Can you get me that market data? Listen and say, yeah, I should have that tomorrow. It's 9 o'clock. At lunch, you're done with it. Why? Because you know exactly where, what, how. Okay? Business analyst data, find me some McDonald's. Should be not a problem. Might be a moment to remember, but you have been exposed to that tool. You did that. You know that there is this tool I can do business search. You might not remember the Nike's code for restaurants, but you know it has a power. You're going to be at the point where you can't remember the tool, but you know exactly what it does, which is great because then you are also able to talk back the language from plain English into GIS, do the GIS, and then translate it back into English. And even if you're stuck in that workflow in between, man, how did I call that tool again, which cuts things like a cookie cutter for Christmas? Oh yeah, cookie cutter, it was it. So you're there. Presentation shouldn't be a problem. We were talking about presentation skills a little bit today. Remind me before we get into the, let's do this right now, so I'm done with it. Presentation and report. A report in this class is not 10 PowerPoint slides and 5 sentences next to it. A report for this class is like you did the roadmap. You said, okay, this is my problem, this is my idea, this is how I want to solve it. That was the roadmap. The report should be, this was my idea, this was my path to solve it, this is how I solved it, and this is what's the outcome. You can tell that story. If you ran into a dead-end street, it's fine, you can tell that. I had students here on Wednesday evening where Miriam and I ran into, we used a really cool tool, which would be the most appropriate way to deal with. However, some items on her data table are redundant sales data. So if a property was sold 5 times last year and you want to go with the parcel ID number for the sale, you only register 1 sale only and not the 5. So
what was it doing if you did 5?
Huh?
What was it doing if you had all 5?
Well, I only picked the first one, so we haven't been happy with that. So that is a part of a story where she can say, hey, I used the tool table join, I wanted to connect all this, but I ended up in a dead-end street. If you write this in your report and give that a notion in your presentation, I see that you have done a different new tool, explored a different new tool beyond what we have done in the class. Well, we're doing table join today as well, but you gotta be a little bit hungry for what's this, what's that tool. All these nice analysis buttons on the top on the ribbon. Did you ever click on the little arrow and find the other 20 listed underneath it? Yeah. So yeah, so many. There's so many tools you can't find in the tool shop anymore. Yeah. So that's one thing. Be precise. I don't expect 50 pages. I don't want to read 20. Yeah. If you only write 3 or 4 pages, you are not really in that. You didn't read the assignment. Title, table of content, executive summary, tell your story, references if you use some. You use data from somewhere else, you gotta reference it. At least just that setup is already 5 pages without written text. Short, precise, tell the story. As in, if I would give my report, let's say to Alana, and she reads that, would she be able to replicate my idea in a few days or a few hours of work? That's what I'm looking for. Kind of the idea that you guys are able to give this to your fellow student, and your fellow student is able to follow what you have done and say, makes sense. There will be presentations where you're like, okay, I know what you have done. And there will be presentations as in, wow, this is possible? Like, you have the same class with me last 6 weeks and you did that? That can happen. Happens every 2 years once. We have one kid in the room that just is blasting things away. That's what we call just like 10 golden fingers for that topic. Yes, please.
So you have to describe the whole process of what we did, like step by step, or just generally mention?
Generally. Let's say you have a list of addresses, to put on into your project and you work with those properties. You do not have to tell me the field name of the table you use for geocoding. You do not have to tell me that you used 400 addresses and only 378 did geocode. The way this would be written is, let's make an example. MLS data. I used MLS data. I did geocode it. If you really want to be precise, you can make a statement on how good the geocode was. And say, hey, I geocoded about 95% of the addresses have been a perfect match. I validated that, bam. It's one sentence for like, say, 10, 15 minutes work. You don't need to explain that you did download the data, that you geocoded the data, that you selected the 4 other fields there, and that you used address points versus routing locations. No. Got the table, geocoded it, used it this way. No. You should not submit a paper that says, I use GIS and this is my result. Okay? Why? Because the tools you're using is the path of learning. And you get points for the path of learning. Let's say it's simple. If you have a online setup and you're doing 50 small little steps, report here, customize variables here, create this, do that, buffer here, all these little things. This is as valuable as a student who comes in and says, I got 1,000 addresses here, I geocoded them, I ran 2 more tools, and this is what I'm coming out with. Because the complexity of those tools can be equaled out over the amount of little other tools. You're gonna just trust me with this, that 20-some years of experience in the industry, I will be able to make that judgment call for you guys. That's the complicated part. Transparently present what you have done in the GIS world. Yes, please.
Transparently without having to say every click. Download this, upload it.
No.
So, but still, save your steps and show your what you did.
Yeah.
Having to do everything.
Think about it. Remember the PowerPoint I did about we did bad mapping? All the cluttered maps and the really bad stuff in the beginning, or during our grad students' time, Michael and mine. I didn't give you a rundown how I generated all these isochronous lines, drive time, and all that. I told you the concept, and I showed them. I didn't say this took me an afternoon or 5 months. If your GIS project takes you 5 months, we have a problem because that's beyond the time we had. Another reason why we did the roadmap is every project in this classroom is feasible in the time and with your knowledge, skills, and expertise. And today we're going to double check again where you're at and how I can help you to find maybe the last missing spot. Or say, hey, you know what, you're chasing rabbits in the wrong direction. You need to stop here and do this and that. I do apologize. South German accent, very passionate about the way you have to learn and gain experience. I might not say, hey, have you thought about maybe to consider this or that? I might say, do this, take a look at that. I'm selling this as in to the point, not schmoozing up on being charming when I deal with spatial workshops. You're not going to have the charming environment if you're doing a team-based project like a studio. At some point, this is not going to work. You need to find a different solution. Or, I'm not so sure about the success of this project at this moment. Maybe we should consider an alternative path. This is not going to work. That's my preferred idea. All right, so, PowerPoints. I should really do a PowerPoint about not to do bad PowerPoints. I actually have something. Question is clear. PowerPoints. The idea is that you are able to present and visualize which class was it? Bad slides here, different class. In PowerPoint, the idea is that you're able to visualize and communicate your work. maybe just even the idea of work sometimes. You know, we have this TED Talk stuff, so people are putting new ideas in your head. All right, so you're limited in time. If we are counting honors, we have 240 minutes of class time. We're a little bit short in the beginning in the morning because we're not here at sharp 8 o'clock. So be honest, 8:15 is when we start presentations. That gives you 225 minutes. Divide that by 26 students. 9.7, 9.6, something like that. So, 9.5. That means we would have something like 9.5 minutes per student. That means Woody standing up, coming down here, plugging in, talking, and gets a Q&A and feedback session. That's tight. That's the reason why I said play and aim for like 5 minutes. Huh? If it's 5 minutes and 10, it's okay. If it's 8 minutes, not okay. My timer goes at 5 minutes. Everyone has time, as in data is loaded up. You have 5 minutes, click and talk. So, how does this work? There are different ways to do that. Let's talk about visuals first and then maybe presentation styles. One, is this actually recording? Yeah. One, the antichrist of presentation styles is a black background, 12 font white. Please visualize that. Extremely dark background, black, small font, white. Please do not do that. Don't use 12 font blue, anything. 16 or 18 is the minimum you should consider. Declutter. Remember we did this whole presentation about visualization in the beginning? Declutter your slide. If you have 12 bullet points on your slide, make 2 slides. Yeah? 2 slides with big letters on there. Nobody says you need to compress all the 12 bullet points in one slide. Your audience will appreciate you, as in, here are the first 6, here are the next 6. Visually detailed, do not clutter. Pure text sometimes is the best way to do it. Avoid weird stock pile, or what is it called, stock imagery. Like the famous PowerPoint kid with the question mark on top. It's fine, it's amusing. Takes away a little bit of time in your preparation. I'd rather have you talk this PowerPoint a 3rd time than make it fancy looking. There are standard designs you can use. Perfectly fine, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Big letters. Again, 16, 18 minimum. More, I have like 24 and 32s usually. The last person in the row, or last row, needs to see that without glasses. Then, some images, think about, these are not the, I'll say that, those projector systems we have here in the room and in the other room are not really forgiving in terms of nice pastel tones, like shades of color. Yeah? A light green might not even show up at all. Yeah? So think about being contrast rich and powerful with your colors. If you're in doubt, you know that you're presenting here in this room, plug in a slide. Maybe take the workshop time today and say, okay, fine, I need that one slide. This is what I would like to do. This is my design. Take that and plug it in and take a look. We have seen this multiple times. You have seen this multiple times that my screen is crystal clear on the laptop. You don't see nothing. Not great, because the audience is not learning. The audience is not participating in your experience. and you get highly frustrated because it's not doing the job you wanted to have it done. And this is the worst thing that can happen to you in a presentation for finishing a class. You want to celebrate your knowledge. You want to celebrate for the 5 minutes you're the king, the queen of knowledge in the room. Let's say we worked on Thursday. Take your project. She's having a really cool idea on the project. The last thing I want is to have her being frustrated because the PowerPoint didn't show. I want her to share her idea and success. We get to the success. And the experience of it. And not just the fact that she giggled about that. It's not an easy project she put. But she gets it done. It's great. So, precise, visually rather simple, than highly complex. 5 minutes is not much. How many slides do I need in 5 minutes? This is part of presentation style. How many slides did I use the last half an hour? 0. Yeah? And I think you're still following me where I want to go and how I visualize in your head the things you need to see and not to do. Again, black background, small font, dark font colors, or even high in contrast white. White works on dark backgrounds. If it's really big, but don't a few sentences, buzzwords, which is different in the presentation. If I have just a buzzword here, you read the buzzword, you put it in your mind, and you keep listening to my voice. How I talk, how I slow down, how I get louder or more quiet. And then play with your voice. Yeah? It is a GIS class, so there has to be some visual. Yeah? Like, this is my idea, this is what I have done, this is what I came up with. Yeah? Screenshots are great, perfectly fine. You do not have to export images in 600 dpi that they're print quality for the next poster. Yeah? On a regular computer, if you use the sniping tool, type in SNI and it pops up with sniping. That's a really cool tool to do screenshots. Copy and paste this in. You even can save those images. That is good enough in the quality of resolution for your PowerPoints, and it will be good enough for your report. So don't stress out that you need to put in hours and hours and hours in Photoshop. Nope. Don't go fancy on layout programming like InDesign or something like this unless you are using it on a regular basis. You can do a fantastic job in a simple word processing unit. You can do a fantastic job in even opening up Google Docs and write this in Google Docs in the worst case, if you have issues with computers and access to computers. Presentation style. You can put up a buzzword and you talk about it. You could also put up 5 sentences or even a whole pages full of text. This will draw away from the attention from you, from your idea you're delivering. Remember, the map is part of the messaging tool. In a PowerPoint presentation, you are the messenger. So keep that in mind. For those, speaking of messenger, for those who are not, how to say it, confident enough about presenting in front of this audience, you're not competing with a grade with your classmates here. That's one thing. They're not here being vicious and anti. They're here to learn with you. Yeah? This is my project. This is what I've done. I'm feeling really, really happy with it. Also, you can say, hey, I struggle a lot. This is my story. Me and GIS. Alright? There are different ways to tell that success, that learning path. So, how do I practice for this? Do a draft of a PowerPoint. Put your laptop, if you have a laptop, or a regular computer, on your kitchen counter or your dining table. Stand up and run a timer. And talk, literally, if you're in your dining room or kitchen counter, talk to the microwave. Screen, microwave. Right? It helps you to deal with I need to check my audience. Is my audience present? Yeah? The amount of mouse clicks is barely 0 right now. So, when you time that and you realize, oh, it's 7 minutes, not going to work. What happened? Is it because you did this the first time? You don't have that flow yet? You're still trying to generate ideas while you think you're talking? Think, then talk. Run 2. Do the same thing. Time it. Talk it. Have maybe videotape yourself with the webcam on your laptop. Have your roommates or friends, spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, or just some peeps sit there and crack up. It's kind of fun if you're there in shorts and put a jacket on and do a test run for a presentation. And you have like 3 buddies and sitting there and sipping beer. The best party you can have. Why? Because you know after Saturday you're going to laugh about them because everything you did right and they just amused themselves. I want you to consider 3 test runs. First with the draft, see if this works. If you do animations and you click, have a clicker. Using a mouse in a test run is okay. If you never ever used a remote clicker with a laser pointer or something like this, don't do it on Saturday unless you practice. It can be highly disruptive in your flow and in your concentration for those 5 minutes if you press the wrong button. Remember that site planning session where that clicker, because I wiggled with it all the time, started to switch slides and how that threw me off? And I think I've done that job a few times. So easy going for 5 minutes. You're the king and queen. You give the State of the Union address. No one is going to contest you in those 5 minutes because unless you say, hey, ask me questions, but in the timing you don't. You have that flow. If you're a quiet, shy person that doesn't like public speaking a lot, this is your world. This is like, hello, for the next 5 minutes I'm this. I'm okay. I'm squeezing my left hand right now because I'm nervous. But I can hide here if needed. You don't have to walk around and be completely, as you can see on that slide, or even from the back of the hallway. Practice this. All right. I have 3 slides. Please note, there's image, and it's called another pane. I had the pleasure to sit in the last row for assessment, as in going through if these students in that particular program have visualizations and presentation skills. The picture is called another pane. I dropped my pen. I couldn't leave, but this is not even 12 font. Why not? It's like staging, vehicles, differentiators, economic logic. Why not to make 4 or 5 slides out of this? And then it was this. As you can see on the slide, this is what I stayed here, and I I don't know. This is the first time I see this because it was a team presentation and that teammate actually, someone clicked through the slides and someone was commenting on it. And then at some point, they had not really the idea of which one's turn is it. If I say keep practicing here, flow in your teams is very important as well. All right, so what else do we have? I mentioned something about templates. Okay, so you can see slightly, this is the slide here. This whole white thing is actually the screen. Why, for the name of all the designers and the lectures you received about good PowerPoint presentations, why would you use a sixth of your available space and squeeze in 10 font? That's like a micro dot on a post-it. Don't. This space was never used in any of those slides. Then get rid of it. Let's make it in really bad terms in terms of real estate. There's no return of investment on that green triangle. It's not even beautification, not even landscaping. Huh? Don't. Please note, they are not black backgrounds, so they learned something in that class. Speaking of lessons learned. You will see a slide like this in your career in this program. Hopefully not, but you will see at some point these kind of slides. Be respectful. Tell them, you know what? It looks really great. Really appreciate the presentation style. And then open up the floodgates and tell them what you really think. All right. So, in terms of presentation for next week, any questions, any ideas? I think I was kind of straightforward what I believe could be a really great way. Oh, speaking of great way on using media, be prepared for the worst case scenario. If you're doing, let's say, an online work, business analyst online, ArcGIS online, all that. Be prepared that you cannot access your online account. Do not do an online live presentation. You're not presenting real-time data processing for an industry where you say, hey, we click here and inside the nuclear power plant, we have immediately feedback. No? That's not it. But you will be wonderful and successful just to say, you know what, I use business analyst. This is a screenshot of one of my drive time analysis maps. Yeah? You don't go in and open up business analyst and run the tool in your 5 minutes and have it calculate for 7. Do not do a live demo. Please, for your own sake and my sanity, do not do a live demo. Screenshotting and talking about it is good enough. We all know if you say I use business analyst for drive time, we know how this tool works. We want to know that you use like 30 minutes or 60 minutes, or did you use like 20, 40, and 60? Why did you use the two different sections? Why was an hour good enough for your work rather than 10 minutes? Yeah, that is what your audience wants to learn. We know that tool already. Why did you apply this tool with these kind of parameters is part of the story you can tell. You don't have to, but that will be a question maybe from the audience, from you guys. And saying, hey, why did you use 20 minutes instead of an hour? Or vice versa. So in terms of, there's a short Q&A session, justifiable about the principles of your work. You do not need to know the statistical error margin of 2.7775 for your data. That would be ridiculous. But understanding that your data, if you geocode, that your data might have some systematic bias, not a perfect match, or some didn't tie, or some did tie, that is what your audience wants to hear, okay? Again, I don't care if you have 278 successful geocodes. But you need to present, I did this geocode process, was very happy with it, here are the next results. Maybe a quick slide and saying, here, all the funny dots. And then I use those funny dots for the next part. 5 minutes. Some people talk a minute a slide. There's a lot of visualization you want to present. I would think 10 to 12 slides and talk a little bit. You can tell the story while you have 1 or 2 slides coming through as visual support. There's a really cool tool called Kucha. Sounds like Pikachu. Yeah? That's the only way I remember. It's a 20 slides, 20 second per slide format. Automatically 20 seconds slide. So it puts you in a setup that you can't delay and stall. You can't just come back and say, hey, I have another idea. No, 20 seconds here, 20 seconds here, 20 seconds here, 20 seconds here. That's something you could consider. You're having enough time you need to spend on the GIS here. All these tools I use, how do I talk about them? So don't waste too much time to find a really cool new way to present. But keep in mind, you have 5 minutes. You don't have to be too in-depth in your presentation. It's 5 minutes. The fact that you give the next day is the deadline for your final report means whatever you learn in that Q&A session, 1 or 2 other questions, feedback you get, you have like a 24-hour thing going on to do the last adjustments in your final report. That report is not due on Saturday. Since I kind of had crazy moments with deadlines yesterday. Sorry, I apologize for that. But check, if I remember right, the final report for GIS class is due on Sunday, noon or mid-afternoon. Gives you a little bit more time just to polish what you have done and do another proofread with a Sunday morning cup of coffee. All right, what else?
So it's obviously digital.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to print this out, bind it, waste money on color copies. No, PDF it. I would prefer PDF format because it doesn't move things around. It stays in the way you set it up. If you do it in one word, I open it up in mine. Maybe the fonts are different or the paragraph shift, a graphic disappears. Yeah. Don't do that. Yes, please.
Do you expect us to go back after the presentation and make some comments about maybe a question that we had or something like? Is that part of the project or is that just an extra thing we could?
I give you extra time for polishing and tune up. If you get a question here from your peers and you're like, wow, I haven't really thought about that, but that is actually a good idea, I would go back and in my methods or conclusion or future recommendations, I would add that comment.
Is it cool if we talk about like in the project, like after listening to some comments, can we mention in the report that we've heard comments, or should we just keep talking as if like we had already planned for this report? Like,
no, just say, hey, I don't care if it's coming from the audience or if you think this. You can say, hey, you know what? For future references, this could be a great idea, or future directions should go this way. Yeah, this is a common way that you end a research article with, we thought about this, we didn't follow that. That should be part of future research. You keep that door open. You don't want to shut that down. You do not have to find additional material on Saturday to plug that in. If there are no questions, there are no questions. Take the time, read it another time, Woody,
Yes, sir.
if it's digital submission, I recommend print it out, read it on paper. Language skills are part of that. If your grammar, your punctuation, and your spelling is completely miserable, it's going to be no fun to read your technical knowledge and your ideas about how to conquer the world with GIS. Huh? I'm not going to stop reading it, but it's less joyful. Huh? Don't think to write technical. Don't overstress. Oh, it's GIS, I need to write technical. Don't. Write it in regular language as in, hey, these are the tools I used, this is what I wanted to express. Huh? If really, really needed, I can find maybe an example from past classes. But that would put you up in a specific format and template and maybe freak out mode because you had other things in ideas. Yeah? And this is about GIS. I think 40% of this final project is about the GIS in between the lines, presentation and report. Huh? Hey, I use this tool for these purposes. That is what you get a grade for. Not because it's pink or blue. Okay? Speaking of pink and blue, let's do some pink and blue maps. What?
I thought you said Pikachu.
No.
Not this time.
No, there used to be a, can I say that? There used to be a very, 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 very bad joke.
Sure.
Pikachu was what kind of Pokemons? Well, what is the sound of a Pokemon? This is time in Finland and Norway. So you gotta think about cliff. What is the sound of a Pokemon falling off a cliff? Pikachu! The context was we talked about lemmings and how lemmings will run off the cliff, and then Pikachu came up. So, yeah, it's like the joke was done in Swedish. Okay, fine. All right, let's do some GIS fun. What I want you to show is the following. In Canvas, there's this little thing I put up. It's called GIS Server. If I click on GIS Server, there will be two URLs inside. The first URL is the GIS Fort Lauderdale site. Actually, not the site, it's the server. So, if I look here, zoom in, you can see that there's stuff down here, ArcGIS REST services you might not have seen before. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to explore this in 2 or 3 things. First of all, I copy and paste just a little bit here, the .gov part, and paste it in on my other page. Then you find the City of Fort Lauderdale's webpage from the GIS department, which is really, really cool. They're really doing a great job getting data out and as user-friendly as possible for the public. Yeah? So,
Where's this link located? GIS server.
yep, and GIS server here on the module. And then what I did is if you type in gis.fortlauderdale.gov, you come to this web page. Yeah? So there's a bunch of things you can do. You can see that there's let's say a map with PDF. They're actually accessible. They actually write down what is actually in there. We also invite you to search for an interactive version of this. Yeah? You can also type in just gis.fortlauderdale.gov. Yeah? And you can go down here and then you can see here there's a map on future land uses. Do we have actually a application on future land uses? Well, there's a zoning map, but it's also a PDF. Yeah? I can search for PDFs and maps, apps, sorry. If I click apps, I can find this. Yeah? And you can go through this. Last time I checked that page, I couldn't find download data. And I needed something that shows visually what's going on. not necessarily needed to download data, but need to show what's going on in my GIS, on my computer, on my turf. So how do you do that? Well, let's hack it. Because we know that if you deal with a GIS server, GIS servers have a specific pattern. Let's go back here. A specific pattern how they address their data directories. So if I click on this whole thing, I get that. View footprints in ArcGIS Online Map Viewer. Oh, Map Viewer. We know Map Viewer. We have done that a few times. And you can see all these different folders. If you are dealing with ArcGIS Online, you might have accidentally clicked on one of those links. You might have seen something like this with your own data. So now I know that there's that kind of data portal in the back. How do I use this data portal in the back? Why don't I hijack it and connect to it? All right. In ArcGIS Pro, it is one friendly right click on a tool. Let's fire up ArcGIS Pro. Done that already. Logged in already. And let's let's do this differently. And I can now say, okay, fine, I create a project again, like we do all the time. Create a folder on my C drive or in any location you want. Yeah. I just called it server demo. And I call it servers as my file. All right, we have done this multiple times. If your name of that project folder is different than mine, that's okay. We're going to demonstrate how to pull in this data, and we're going to repeat it another time with Miami-Dade. Huh? How are you doing, Bruce?
Wow.
You okay?
Yeah, so tired.
All right. Good. So let's open this up. And we use the map template, so we expect the map coming up and the catalog pane. Okay? In catalog, which is our friend, we have seen a few things. We have seen the project here. Yeah? And we have seen a portal. If we use portal with my content, you're connecting to ArcGIS Online. That's one of the reasons why you're using the setup that you have to log in with your online accounts. Okay?
Some of our computers are.
Some of what?
Some of our computers are just slow for that.
All right, well. Fine. All right. Whose computer is slow right now?
I'm a little behind.
A little bit behind. All right. To repeat this again, open up a new project, find the location you want to save the project in, and then fire it up and let me know when we're in catalog. Nathan, are you guys there? Marcella, you're good? All right. So, I want to connect to a server. The catch now is, on the left side, it says maps, toolboxes, database, styles, folders, locators. It doesn't say server. Well, who's your friend in GIS? Right click. Yeah? So, if I would go now here and right click, it says down there, new ArcGIS server connection. Huh? So the way this whole thing works is you pretty much create a little pointer, a file. Like in the conference, it would be like that intern that stands there with a sign. Yeah? So you're taking the intern and you're putting a sign on it and says, GIS, this way. And that's what you need to do. The same thing like you did the folder connection to your buckets on your workspace. Now you create literally a milestone and say, high five, this is the GIS server for Fort Lauderdale. All right? So
The file being on your computer.
think about in a web browser, you would bookmark something.
Making
And you can edit the bookmark. That's what we're doing. We're doing an add a new bookmark, but instead of being at the page, we're going to tell the bookmark manager, this is where you need to go when I click on you.
Hyperlink.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, take a look. Give me a moment. Hyperlink is actually the good comment. Well, if I click here now left, ArcGIS server connection, it pops up and says add ArcGIS server connection. Say what?
He's so funny.
He's from the south. He has to be funny. Best kept secret, South Germans. All right. Like an Earl. Max just said, like an Earl. Look, what does it ask here when I say add server connection? It asks for the server URL. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'll go back to Canvas and gently go over here and copy all this with Control C as in Charlie. Go back to catalog, to Bro, to the catalog pane, highlight everything and then copy and paste that in. Nope, that didn't work here. Links to external site. This is what I need, okay? What?
Will it keep that connection?
Give me a moment. All right, you need to see this URL in here ending with services. If you do copy and paste with Canvas, it might give you this link to external site. You don't want that. You want here services. All right. If that is a little bit too bothersome, as in copy and paste and getting in trouble, this is the way to solve the problem. You just click on it, go up here, copy and paste. Yeah, that's the easiest way to do. Click, click, copy, paste. Okay, so this is a public access. So typically public access don't need usernames. So we just click OK. Now we got this one here on the side saying server. For people who really, really enjoy using this often, I recommend to do this exercise on favorites. So what does this mean? I have now a server connection. Well, I click on it and it pops up with ArcGIS on Fort Lauderdale server. Huh? That's my bookmark. Yeah?
On that username thing,
I double click on this guy. And like on the web page, I see a bunch of items. But how do they look right now? They are folders. Enter those giggling like a 6-year-old on Christmas in the candy store. All right. So, what if I go down here for aerial imagery, double click on this. Takes a moment, it connects via the internet to the server. And now it says Aerials 2016, aerial photography, imagery, 2016 pictures, city of Fort Lauderdale. Well, do I want to see that? Yeah, why not? Right click, add to map. Go to map. Now I have the aerial photography provided by the city of Fort Lauderdale on my screen. It's not on my computer. I didn't download it. I'm using it. I'm putting in that layer from somewhere else with that folder server connection.
So it's not locally hosted at all?
No, you just cache it. But it's good enough because if I want to know how, let's say, the Oceanographic Center looked like back then.
Wow.
Yeah. Here, this is the Oceanographic Center. And some people walking on all that. That's good enough for me. If I want to know where the best dive boat if I want to know where the best dive boat is in Fort Lauderdale, that's the American Tree. Yeah. Again, this is served by the city of Fort Lauderdale. What else do they have? Let's go back to catalog. Ooh, zoning. Someone said zoning. Would you like to find some zoning for the city of Fort Lauderdale? All right, let's take a look. There might not be everything, but there's a lot. Well, if I go down, down, it says zoning GIS. So I double click on zoning GIS and it comes up with some cryptical thing called layer list. Again, this whole thing is packaged for you. So why don't I just say add to map and go back to map. All right. Let's optimize a few things. I click. Now I go here on layer list. Huh? Oh. So if you take a look at these, you can see some of them are on, some of them are deactivated because that's where you are in scale, zoom in, zoom out. They might pop up later. Yeah. So you can also go back down here and say, take a look here at the existing zoning districts. And you can see the zones as they're listed. And I can actually zoom in again.
And that's gonna be even more up to date than like you pull it from the county. I mean, unless it's.
The idea of up to date is relative. The idea of up to date is relative because I asked them for, let's say, voting districts in spring, and turned out that the voting districts they had on available have been like 1 or 2 years old. I did not put the most updated version out.
Well, I know with, I forgot their names, but I bought them from the county level. And what they do is they just stitch it all together from the cities. So if you're so area studies, that was good.
Yep. Not all of them are available. Oh yeah. So, one thing. This sometimes can take a moment to load. Max, you asked this question earlier. If I don't know if it's still loading or not, look down here. This is a refresh. If I load a few things, it will rotate. Not all of those layers, because they're prepackaged, will show. I'm looking at the zoning map right now. I don't see the zoning map right now. At some point, it will pop up. Why? Because if I'm looking at South Florida, it doesn't matter. It's not really good performance to have the zones sitting there.
Does this cost points to pull it in?
You are using the server from the city of Fort Lauderdale. This is not. You should not use points from your own account for that. They're hosting that for you. Huh? Points. Huh? All right. I want to give you like a moment here to take a look, just here in catalog, what you can find, but also what kind of limitations you have. Limitations here for the zoning, I can identify that this part here, that corridor here, is in that specific zone. Can I identify that building as a specific zone? Probably not. But if I use the identifier tool, it tells me that this zone is the Regional Activity Center East Mixed Use District.
That's when you pull in your.
If I want to do more specific material than, let's say, showing this as an overview for an area of interest, yeah, I need to download the data and talk to the GIS department. If it's just about finding the address of a building and say, okay, fine, you know what? Here, Southeast 5th Street, I'm interested to buy the corner lot. What's the current zoning code on this one? Is RS8. That could be good enough just to find out its specific street address and its zone. Huh? Yes, please.
Say you have multiple layers, right?
Yep.
So one's your tax roll, one's your shape file, right? And another one's the parcel shape file. Can you export a single spreadsheet from multiple layers?
Can I export a single spreadsheet from multiple layers? Yes, after I'm done with a specific series of processes. But you need to coordinate that and you need to think your workflow through. What you're looking for is the idea of spatial join. That you have a specific parcel with specific other data in it, as in how many push pins can fall into the parcel and how many are falling aside. Yeah. Spatial join is your helper with that. Spatial join, as in location versus location, and how they relate.
Attributes, then you can kind of connect the others.
And then in addition to that, you can do a table join, where you pull in outside tables into your spatial data, and then you do a spatial join on top of each other. So you can shift to the left and to the right, up and down. Think about that. And then you put this in 3D and your head starts spinning. Okay? I want you to spend a moment here and take a look at the other stuff. What is of interest for you? Or something as exotic or weird, or hey, why is that?
Sex offenders.
Yep. Something to consider is take a look at the sex offender list.
Even more importantly is how do you prevent that?
So, years ago, Miami was in the news on how to zone out sex offenders. And this is rather an urban planning and regional planning issue, but you can use GIS for that. So, if you have an ordinance that says if you're a registered sex offender, you are not allowed to take residence in, let's say, 2,000 feet from an elementary school or other specific places outlined in that sex offender ordinance. Then you realize, okay, fine, how do I measure the 2,000 feet away from that school?
Who makes the decision on the rules?
Well, city council and the community. Yeah. So you can now say, I don't know what type of distance they measured here or how much, but you can see this looks like buffers. Yeah? Dissolved buffers. So, all in red right now on the screen, you can zoom in here, Lauderdale Airport, it does allow a little bit. Yeah? All the red is areas where if you are a registered sex offender, you are not allowed. The way I read this, I did not read the metadata. The way I read this, because it's green and red on this prepackaged file, means if it's red, I would associate that as in this is a no living area.
That's right.
Yeah?
It is.
Not knowing the ordinance, not knowing the specific language or legal code behind that, but that is what I would read. That means, looking here, the harbor area you could live in, but you can't live here on that beach stretch. You can't live on Las Olas. Huh? So, a simple application in GIS to reinforce the visualization of a zoning ordinance for sex offenders. Which was interesting because it was like in 2004, 2005 that came up, and we had, living in Delaware, we had a huge discussion how actually the city of Miami is technically zoning out anyone that falls into that category. Can they make you move because you already had residence? Not really. But they can make sure that if you have to move for, let's say, job or other means in your life, that you cannot relocate in specific areas. Huh? So that's an interesting use of GIS. Also, you guys know that already. That looks like buffers. Are buffers the right way to measure a distance?
No.
No, but they're a good start as a proxy.
And is it what the court would use for something like this?
I don't know. I'm not a legal expert in that.
From the center of the school or from the boundaries of the school?
This guy gets a bonus point.
That's the question I was trying to get.
Yeah.
Who's making the rules?
So, what about you're doing some work in Miami-Dade County? Miami-Dade County, anyone? Not interested? Still doing it. Miami-Dade County. I'm going to cut a little bit pieces here to show you the webpage. The webpage is cool. I really like that. Instead of Fort Lauderdale, copy and paste Miami. gisms.miamidade.gov. That's not the one I wanted. It's even better. Let's do the home. Oh, let's go straight into the server. If you are looking for this online, if you say MDC GIS, just typing in Google MDC GIS, you come up with this portal. This is super important, guys. This is one of the coolest tools you can find. Click on Miami-Dade. It's so-called the Open Data Hub. You can look for a bunch of boundaries. Let's say if I'm interested in finding parcel data for Miami-Dade County, I just type in parcel. Comes up with a search engine. Shows me even where are these located. Gives me short description. Gives me what update date they did. What type of data I can get. And how big my table is. About 575,000. If I click on this one, it shows me the file. Like literally, it starts drawing it. It gives me information about what's inside the table. So I don't have to download this big guy and then realize it's not the right. And if I want to download, you can go to data, you can see the table here as an example, what's inside. And if I want to download here, I just click download on the side and can choose the type I want. And remember we talked about shapefiles? Well, you can download a shapefile. If you click on download the shapefile, it will download a zip file. So the little program zip, WinZip, is your friend in all that. Yes, please.
So the shape file, is that just the boundaries? That's just the boundaries.
Shapefile is a combination of 5 files. Geometry, data table, indexes, relationships, and stuff like this.
So it does have the data table in there, if they've done it right.
Oh, wait. Do they have to? So this is your shapefile. This is all what you will see. This is on the Windows side, and then in Catalog or in Pro it will show differently. However, you're asking about the table back. Well, why don't you just click on data? Because here you can see if it has more than just the number. Let's go and clear this out. Here you can see an example how and what you will have inside. How is the data structure behind? So not much, but you have the folio number. And the folio number is the parcel ID in MDC. And then you can take anything you want and relate it to that.
That's pretty standard folio.
The parcel ID number, unique ID number.
Depends on what county.
Depends on which place and who's maintaining the data.
Yeah.
Use that as a location ID.
You don't even.
No, this is the ID number associated with your outline or boundaries of your shapefile.
If you look in like Arkansas, where I'm from,
You should.
This system looks ridiculously expensive. I mean, who's pressuring the public government to do all this?
Well, the best way to make money is to know where you locate your money. Let me give you an idea of addressing 101. If I know exactly where an address is and a property is, and I have unique identifiers for that property, as in parcel ID number and an address, I then can associate who owns it and the address of the owner, who maybe owned it before, what's the bank who owns it.
City, basically,
Yeah.
this is their.
This is public record. This is information from your deed. If you go for the property assessors, I can use your address with the parcel ID, assess the value of your house, assess the value of your land, and I can show if you paid your taxes or not. So that's one thing. So, what if you do not have a cadastre system, not have a data inventory management system for your land, for your addresses, for your properties? How many condos do you have in your condominium tower? If I don't know and say maybe 50, maybe 100, well, think about property tax. That's maybe 50 or maybe 100 times X dollars. Okay? That's one issue. Then, in case of emergency management, if I don't know where I need to send my ambulance, I cannot provide you the 911 services you need. Your 50 to 100 condominiums will burn down if I don't know where to send my fire trucks, my fire engines. Yeah? So if you go down into the rabbit hole and be politically polarizing, back in the days, 2012, Hernando de Soto, economist guy from Colombia, really cool kid. Tortured myself with readings from him on land and capitalization and all that. Gave a guest speaker keynote address at a GIS conference for 14,000 GIS geeks. And he talked about shadow economies. This is a real estate topic. Shadow economies in, let's say, the construction world in Egypt. Because you build a building in Egypt, you get the building permit for one floor, but you put a second floor on top of it with the same building materials, with the drawings for the first floor, and you wonder why the building maybe collapses at some time. However, because there was and is no preferred structure or back then in place for permitting systems based on address and location and associated values, yeah, your water meter, your gas meter, your electric meter has a unique identifier number. That number is associated with your building and your address. Your building has, depending on the system you live in, your building has an identifier number. Remember, I keep talking about GIS is like the Matrix movies with the 0 and 1s on the screen? The real GIS is behind it? Yeah. You walk down the street and say, next time you walk down the street, take a look. If you walk by at some urban trees, they might actually have a number. Every lamp post will have a number. Why? Because it's the identifier number for that traffic sign post or traffic light, yeah, to tell the utility company that's the one. It's not anymore southeast corner of XY street. No, it's this number with that GPS coordinate. Huh? And Hernando de Soto goes further up from the example from Egypt and says, hey, if this is a $5 billion shadow industry, why don't we regulate it with better permitting? Why don't we connect the dots with GIS? Yeah? And bam, you have control over that. I was a recipient of the so-called Cincinnati Area GIS Consortium Fellowship. What they did in '92 in the first year with less, I think, $300,000 budget, they put the county assessor's tax data, the county and the municipality's local planning data together with the sewer district and public works for water, and found disconnects between water use in one area and not being built for sewage. Because the permitting process was not yet aligned and in sync with each other. If you develop a specific parcel, certain utilities needs to be in place. They need to be associated with that land position. a legal description for the land position is an address. And I mentioned that as the political polarized comment because that guy ended up making a comment about addressing. Back then we had Osama bin Laden still on the run. And he said if every cave in that area would have an address, they would have found Osama bin Laden already. It must be an address mapping GIS joke because 10,000 people in that room that day laughed.
Were you one of them?
Yeah. All right. Geocoding is the bread and butter. Bread and butter. Bread and butter, yeah. It's like Aiken and Bex. Bacon and eggs. All right. You got that? MDC data portal is cool. Well, we do have the link to their services. So if I click on the link to the services, do a copy, nope, let me finish. Do a copy here and go back to Arc Pro, I can repeat what we did with the other server. I add a new server connection, right click on my projects, add new server connection, paste this in, and click OK. Go to my servers, and now you can see two. If I go to Miami-Dade, they are structuring this a little bit different. They are structuring this actually with projections and transformation zones. So you need to know that this is the North Atlantic datum, and that is the World Geographic System. Why? Because one is in lat long and the other one is in feet. So now you can also go here and take a look at all the zones they give you. Yeah. Let's just do airport zoning as one example. I do encourage you guys just to browse with this, play and say, hey, do they have this data? Do they have that data? Where would I find land use, zoning, buildings, building price, land prices? Yeah? Not just on other workstations and all that. All right, so I did add that to the map. Right click on it and say zoom to the layer. And now I can see the airport approaches in Miami-Dade. Do I need to have this data to download? No, but if you're doing a project in Miami-Dade County, yeah, let's say Hialeah Gardens, could be interesting depending on your project to say, you know what, I want to show where are my airport approaches. Fort Lauderdale actually has a layer that tells you the maximum allowable, maximum permissible building height from the airports. Let me finish this and then I'm all yours. So if I go back to Fort Lauderdale, there was, where was it? Things you don't write down. Do you see it? Transportation, was it transportation? Nope. Just trust me with that. There is it was zoning. I think it was zoning. Here, FAA height restriction. So here, these rainbow colors is the height restriction by the FAA.
Where'd you get that?
It's in the layer list for the zoning.
Oh, it's in zoning?
It's in the layer list in zoning. All right, questions? Yeah?
So, around this, the air flight, the approach type of discussion, I'm sure when they're building the airport, the orientation of what land it goes over, I'm sure that's a big discussion. Like, especially the impact of noise, not being on an approach being maybe in a mile or two. Can you load some noise data, or what's the?
No, there are regulations how far you have to be away from X, Y, Z points. So that's actually, not topic of this class, but if you're really into that, vectormaps.org, I think it's called, you can actually see this in 3D because of the different flat corridors as well. All right, so this is how you connect to two of the dominant GIS servers here in the region. Yeah, so that should be okay. That should be fun. Explore this. This is mostly for visualization and support of your own ideas. Yes, please.
So let's say I go to the local gov, right? And I, what is this, what's the directory called? Like, what do they call it internally? GIS?
GIS data.
Just the GIS?
Yeah. So in this case, I would call up the City of Fort Lauderdale GIS data, GIS department, or drop them an email and say, hey guys, that's the reason why it's so beneficial to actually know what you're looking for already, and say, hey, found on your web server, found the FAA height restrictions for a school project or for work. I would like to request, can I have that as a shapefile? Can I have that as a download? Because I would like to do some analysis with that. And they're usually straightforward and help. Again, coming from a university, they're usually very helpful when it says, hey, we're doing this project here. Fine. Yes?
So you call up a city that doesn't have.
If you come up with a city that doesn't have GIS, the county of that city probably has it. In the worst case, you need to digitize.
So digitize it yourself.
Yeah, I would not recommend to digitize FAA regulations or something like this because it's too complicated. But if it's going down as in 5 areas of how to set up a few areas, like assignment 2, last night deadline, it asks you for digitizing my Weston. You basically say, okay, fine, if I do not have a boundary file for the Western area here, for that area of interest, how do I point that out in the next PowerPoint or in my next report? Well, I go in and digitize follow 75, 595, and 27, and highlight that. It doesn't have to be accurate perfectly, because in that range, if I do a mouse click to the left and to the right, I'm across the highway anyway. But it's a huge benefit if I say, you know what, this is my area of interest, why don't I highlight that visually? Huh?
Do you know of a resource or like a how-to guide, or say the counties that don't?
Most of the counties have open data now. Most of the counties have that data available. That's a hypothetical question, but I can't think of issues. Aerial photography, old aerial photography is a different thing because it's costly to host. I have a GIS project off continent, which Google Maps is the best aerial photography you can find, because nobody did fly on that area at all. But for some reason, Google got some satellite imagery. So I have friends in archaeology and anthropology, they all the time digitize, because you don't have those sites.
Yeah,
Huh?
that's what I'm asking. So if we get, like, is there a way to take meets and bounds?
Maybe. Too technical. Let me go through. I want to show you one more really cool thing. All right? You guys are ready? For one more cool thing, how to visualize a few things? All right. Let's go to ArcGIS Online. All right, so what I want to show you guys is, hey, what if I did some geocodes? I have all the land data I have now based on the addresses. And we did that, remember? We did the sum parcels table. Huh? What if I want to show something like aggregated data? What if I want to show like the thunderstorm weather map in land values? How do I do that? Well, that depends. There's an easy way. There's a correct way. Let's start. There's a correct way to do this if you want to do extremely depth scientific research and follow up steps. Or for the purpose of a report, blow your boss out of the water with surprises and be visually very, very eloquent. There's what I call the quick and dirty way. And a quick and dirty way, that's dance. And a quick and dirty way is beautiful in Bro and in online. Because online has most, if not all, of the tools you can use, most of them, you can use in Pro. But the way you run the tool and the way the data is delivered is just beautiful. Let's compare this as baking a cake. It's the weekend. You can buy eggs, flours, and milk, buy a KitchenAid, and for the next 3 days you're experiencing how to bake a cake. Yeah? Or you go to the aisle and buy a cake mix and get like funny looking yellow sponge stuff. Or you go to the bakery and say, hey, I would like to have a cake that looks exactly with that frosting, blue colors writing on it, and put some yellow funny sponge in it. As you can figure, I am not a fan of funny looking sponge in cakes. That's the yellow gooey stuff. But what's the difference? The cake mix comes out and I have to deal with the frosting and the sprinkles and the preparation and the visualization for it. If I go to the bakery, I just say, click here, do that, give me this. And Angelo, I will have to pay for that. Am I going to pay for 2 hours of my work time or 5 minutes clicking and those 0.06 credits? 0.06 credit it is. All right, so how do I do that? Well, if I go to content, all right, and in all my content here, all these little things, I remember we did something that we called parcels.gdb. Remember that? We did upload the whole database. I want you to find this one here. Parcels GDB your initials. Should be last weekend. Alright? And I click on it. Alright? If I scroll down, we did upload these little 3 feature classes and there was a table included. Alright? And I get a thumbnail here how this looks like. Okay? Find in your content that example from last week, the parcels. Click on them and just say, you know what, open this guy up in my map viewer. Takes a moment to load. The reason why I'm loading everything is because we are practicing again how to deactivate something on the side, something we're not interested in. Yeah. All right, so each of these dots is representing one or multiple addresses at a similar location. The reason why I phrased this like this is because I could have 2 dots that are that far away, but right now they're looking like this close. Yeah? If I want to summarize data now for presentation and say, hey, look, I have different land values here. How would we do that? One way to do that? Nope, we're not as fancy with 3D. One way to do that is we change symbology and scale our symbols. So I could go in here and say change the style. Yeah, and say instead of show location only, I can say, you know what, show me down at the, where's my land values? Here, L&D val. Yeah, and you get these pop-ups. Okay, so now I can see with those bubble charts, bubbles, yeah, bubbles, Bublé, Michael Bublé, bubbles. Now I can see where are like big land values located. I said something, I want to do this like a storm weather tracking thing, like a rain map, temperature map. So one cool way to do that is, let's go back here, cancel out. One way to do this is you can run a analysis. You can start this here for the parcel, or you click on the analysis button here. If I do that, I get a bunch of tools like proximity, remember buffers. And again, this is like we have here analysis. We have all these guys, look, buffers. If you haven't done that, click here. You can see now analyze patterns. On the online world, you see analyze patterns. Oh, hotspots, outliers, clusters. Why don't I do calculate density? Well, let's click calculate density. Then it gives me some cryptic information. This is where you just have to calm, keep breathing. I learn a new tool. What are the input factors for this new tool to understand what's the outcome? Yeah, that's how I brought it. Ooh, what's this? This is cool. What can I do with it? All right, I want to choose a point or a line layer, meaning if I have parcels, I can't use parcels. I might have to convert parcels into points. Tricky. Yeah? All right, so I want to use the GC sum parcels, which are my orange dots right now. It says count field. Sometimes it says population field. Yeah? Because the idea came from population density. What we're doing right now is land value density. I want to select a count field that is land value. LND value. Then I also, this is cosmetics, I can go and say options. Yeah. I can say, hey, take a look at your neighbors. I want you to take a look at every neighbor in 1 mile distance. Options, click on the options button.
I think I can remember.
All right. Alright. So, I also have now on the left side, I have a few more input factors. I told you, this is like come in, order a cake, and get out of here. So I do 1 mile distance. That means every point on that map right now is taking a look within a mile distance from them and saying, what's my neighborhood? What are the land values in that 1 mile distance to me? And how do I then, and the tool will calculate the density for each of those locations in between. It literally tells you what's the surface, the landscape in between those dots. Yeah? Click the output, that's the cookie cutter, to the study area or to a specific tool you have already in place. So we could run that for the wrapper so we get a perfect little cut. Right now we don't worry about that. I need you to see how this tool reacts. You can also say here this number of classes, and you could run this in square kilometers versus square miles. Right now, I don't care. I want you to explore the tool for the very first time. We might end up in results that we think it's not feasible. Does it make sense to measure distance in miles and then produce the outcome in square kilometers? Not really, but you already know you need to go back and fix things. Yeah? This is about the demonstration of the new tool, not about the whole mastery of the little tiny statistical error. All right, all of that, we name it, we print it out, put a initial behind it. In the worst case, I do this because I ran this last night with the same name, so I would have a conflict. For those who are concerned about the credits, you can show the credit tool on the bottom right, up here, and it will now take 0.4 credits out of my account. Well, you're dealing with 300 points. Yeah? Imagine if you would deal with 10,000. So it scales. Was that your question? Exactly. Total records. Alright, so and I run this whole thing. So what I expect is in the lower area here, higher density, darker values in shading, and then the top left, because we had lower land values there, less shading. The cool thing is it already puts symbology on it, puts 10 classes on it, because we said let's render 10 classes. We didn't say render it and then apply classes and make it look good. No, it literally is like, hey, do all this, I come back in half an hour or a minute, and then fix it. Yes?
Is a class like a feature of bubble?
For that, you need to go into the help function. Is it a class? How do you define a class? Is it natural breaks? Is it equal intervals? Is it separate amounts? For that, you need to read the documentation. Right now, it's just beautiful and says, you know what? If you zoom in, can you see this here? This is not one single spot. This is like a landscape. See that? It shows all the little areas here. It's like a landscape of your land use values. Of course, on my screen, you have a small local high here. Yeah. But if you, it doesn't? Did you use land values or did you use something else?
Yeah.
This one looks like let's run it again. Show me, run it again. No, go to GC some puzzles. Run the analysis.
Uh-oh. I missed that. I did it again. The bigger bubble. I missed it. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Bob.
Some
That's
puzzles.
gonna help me.
Perform analysis. This one. Analysis next one. Analyze patterns. Yeah. Land values. And then options. One more. Just one. Didn't choose the land values. Everyone has that one big purple dot like me. Hey, that looks okay.
So here's
What? Yeah, good find. So, what do you get? Did you use the same layer?
I did it again.
Tax base.
But I'm happy she's done.
It's gonna be okay.
Thank you.
It's gonna be okay.
Good, good. I lucked out. Now my
Okay,
niece on the other
so-
hand.
What this does is contrast is bad, and I can't really switch this. No, can't switch this off, can I? Yeah. Let's do this so you can see this better. Does this help? Do you see a little bit better now, the background? No, not really. So, if you look careful, you can see, if you look very careful, at some point, this is cut off. There are two ways to deal with this. One, you might have used the small wrapper here as a boundary file. But also you can see here, see that line? They are not anymore, if you go up on, I can see barely here a light purple area. Yeah. Around that area here, there's no more data points in the north. Yeah. There are no more data points here. There are no more data points there. So it can't calculate, hey neighbor, tell me what's your value, and then create the density. It depends on the data points you provide. So the more points you have in an area, the better it is. Huh? Also takes longer to calculate. All right, so what I want to double check here is, I want to go for the density layer I just created. Click here on the 3 dots as more options. And check if I have to do save layer or not. In this case, I don't. Make sure that you do that. At least check if you save the layer, if this needs to save it. Because then it means it's its own little standalone in your bucket. And if it's in your bucket, what can we do? We can put that in Pro. What? Yeah, it's saved. So I saved the whole map. Save the whole map as like density demo. Add a tag like test or density demo and save it. Again, I'm saving this as my main bucket. I don't save it in somewhere else. All right. Now I go back to Pro. Go back to Pro. Play with my map. Go into Catalog. Go to Portal and my content. And it pops up here, parcel, GDB, my name, some parcels, the density, my initials. This is the one I just created online. See that outline? This is how it looks. I say add to map. And let's clean this up. I have, for the purpose of some simple mapping, not any specific analysis or so, I just created an overview map. I can change here again symbology, wait, appearance. Symbology, I can change the codes, the color ramp. Yeah, if I don't like the purples, I can change that as I want. Yeah. This is potentially the fastest way to add density in a visualization process. This is potentially the fastest way to show, you know what? Where are my parcels? Some parcels. I just deactivated everything else, yeah.
Yeah, it opened it in a separate map.
Well, you can do that. You can say here, add to new map,
Okay, I used a different one.
or add to map.
I used the
Add to new map. Yeah. So if you have, let's say, sales data, and you want to present that where are the local highs and lows, this is a very quick and dirty way to visualize that. And it's straightforward. You don't have to worry about specific mathematical algorithms or other statistical backgrounds. The only way you need, thing you need to note is how many miles did you use as a search radius? That's the important part. Because if you do that for 5 miles, if you do that for half a mile, your result will show differently. So a small homework assignment, just run this for 2 miles, run it for half a mile. You will see that kind of the landscape here will change. But it gives you an idea, okay, where would you look for land values? That's definitely here in the Griffin Road, Davy Road corner, there's definitely something going on. Or your reporting is wrong. Because it might be a multi-family apartment complex with 200 units in it and it's millions of dollars worth. Yeah, versus the single family home for $300,000. So you have to go back and understand your data table. Just looking at it and geocoding it and putting on a map and do the density might be a bias. All right? That said, let's talk about your projects. We have 2 hours left. I don't want to waste time. I want to swing by, have a quick conversation and check in where you at, what's going on. Because I had 2 students showing up on Wednesday night for office hours. And very little requests for help so far. Which means, as an instructor, oh yeah, everything is fine. Or as a GIS guy, they are struggling and they are not coming out of the rabbit hole and raise their hand, we need help. I'm here to help. All right. If there is a specific problem and we can run a quick demo, I will try to do that. If there's a specific problem and we are running out of time, like with table join, I will sit down and give a quick rundown as a paragraph or a video. All right. Any questions so far? Yes, please. Huh? You last? All right. I'm here on Monday afternoon too. No. Yes, please.
When you went to that spot where you were adding in the server for Fort Lauderdale and it had the username that you were requesting, if we were, say I had access to a database that required a username, are you able to utilize the username data right there?
Yep, you could have specific access zones here. Let's say you're having a project with the city and the city gives you, they might say, you know what, don't come to the office and bring an external hard disk. We just give you an account to download or browse.
So that URL that you would use in that case, do you bring it?
They would provide that to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, a typical common case is that if you reach out to a county and say, hey, how do I get the data? They might end up in saying, here's our so-called FTP portal, file transfer protocol, and they give you, this is the login, this is the URL, this is the login, this is the password, and you have to download that again. Same way, bunch of folders you will see, bunch of mouse clicks, dig deeper, find the data you need. A common thing is also if you have a shopping list of data that they might just put everything together and say, here, by the way, this is our link. Click on that link and you as the special user get everything to download. Every municipality, every data outlet is slightly different, but they run the idea if the data is available, sometimes they charge you for this, but as a student, if you do a project, you should not expect some charges. And you have one more person to network with and learn from. All right, speaking of learning from, I'm going to start with Woody in the corner, run through the backyard, and then first row, and then Angelo's last. I just have to figure out if it's Bruce or Alana in terms of where I start the row. This way? All right, fine. All right. Click away. Play with data. If you haven't done yet a little bit more work on your project, open it up. This is about the idea. Hi, I'm your instructor. I'm not your enemy. Tell me where you struggle. Tell me where you're at. Think about an elevator pitch on your project. I can't remember all the 24 25 projects, 26. I have most ideas. What is the project? Maybe not your name, but the project. And let's have a quick conversation where you're at. What are the next steps you need the next few days? And yeah, let's keep going. Yes, sir.
But you know how hard it is.